Dominic Savio is the youngest saint of the whole history. There is no younger saint than Dominic Savio in the whole 2000 years history of the Catholic Church.
A saint? In this day and age? Who can become one? It's so tough. Can a teenager ever become one? And yet, there are some who have. Welcome to this remarkable journey of a person who loved doing ordinary things in an extraordinary manner. One such person was Domnic Savio. It was the 2nd of April 1842, in the district of Turin at Riva de Chieri, that little Domnic Savio was born. Riva de Chieri is a little town amidst green fields and luscious meadows, situated between Castelnuovo and Becchi. It was a town renowned for saints of the likes of Don Bosco and his spiritual director, Saint Joseph Cafasso. Domnic Savio was one of 10 children of Carlo Charles Savio, a village blacksmith, and Brigid Savio, a seamstress. Young Domnic, barely few years old, already learned from his parents to say his grace before and after meals. Domnic's father brought him to Mass every Sunday, and the young 5-year-old found it fascinating. While the other lads at his age were cozily tucked in bed in winter, Domnic would be found kneeling in the snow, praying at the church door, waiting for it to open. One day, a gentleman came home to lunch with the Savio family. Being really hungry, he started the meal without any hesitation, not even saying grace. Domnic quietly excused himself because he said,
"I cannot eat in the company of someone who eats like a beast."
He was only 5, but Domnic lived his faith intensely. He would sense Jesus talking to him and guiding him throughout the day. He pleaded to be allowed to help the priest at Mass. His parish priest saw that he was a good and bright boy, promised to admit him to his first Holy Communion early. With a heart overflowing with emotion, Domnic made 4 resolutions to help him become a saint. He wrote,
"I will go often to confession and Holy Communion as often as I am allowed. I will try to give Sundays and holy days completely to God. My best friends will be Jesus and Mary. Death rather than sin."
The 4th promise was to remain Domnic's motto for the rest of his life. As Domnic grew, his thirst for knowledge grew as well. Going to school came at a price. He had to walk nearly 2 kilometers to the nearest school, but he was determined to study. One day someone asked him, "Young man, aren't you afraid walking all alone?" Domnic immediately responded,
"What's there to be afraid of? I have my guardian angel who walks with me."
The classroom that Savio frequented was a dreary place. It became very cold in winter and it had to be heated by a wood stove. Each boy contributed a piece of wood for the big stove in the corner of the class. One morning, while waiting for the teacher, 2 boys brought in a lot of snow and thrash and stuffed it into the stove. When the teacher returned, the class was full of smoke and everyone was coughing. He was very angry at the class. The two guilty boys accused Dominic for the mischief. Dominic was given a severe scolding. Since it was his first offense, the teacher warned him. Dominic said nothing in his defense. He knelt in front of the class and hung his head in shame while the teacher scolded him. The next day, some of the other boys probably tattled, and the teacher learned the truth of the matter. He immediately sent for Dominic and asked why he had not defended himself against charges made at him. Dominic said that he knew the boys would be expelled and he wanted them to be spared. Besides, said Dominic,
I remember that our Lord was unjustly accused, and he too said nothing.
Since Dominic was a lad of uncommon virtue, with holiness in his life, Father Chieri met his father and suggested he take his son to the Oratory of Don Bosco. He was accepted and became a pupil at Don Bosco's oratory. At his first meeting with Don Bosco, he said,
I am the material. Will you be the tailor? Take me along and make a beautiful garment for the Lord.
Once Dominic overheard two boys planning a rock fight. They were very angry with each other and were prepared to fight it out. Dominic tried his best to dissuade them, but nothing would discourage them. Dominic held up a small crucifix and reminded them that Christ died forgiving their sins, and yet these two were willing to fight each other over a minor misunderstanding. The boys hung their heads in shame, dropped their stones, and made peace with each other. One day he noticed that one of the boys had brought into the oratory a magazine. This drew a crowd of curious onlookers who feasted their eyes on those horrible drawings. Dominic also ran to the group, not knowing what they were looking at. But as soon as he saw those dirty images, he became indignant. He snatched the magazine and tore it into little pieces in front of them. Dominic kept quiet for a few seconds and then explained his action. Everyone was stunned. No one felt inclined to challenge him anymore. Once, while walking through the streets of the city on his way to Latin and Greek classes, he heard a cart driver swearing and blaspheming. Cautiously yet delicately, Dominic approached the man and gently won him over. On another occasion, Dominic knelt in reverence when he saw the Blessed Sacrament being carried through the streets. He even politely spread his handkerchief in the mud to help a passerby who refused to kneel for fear he would soil his trousers. The greatest source of spiritual help lies in frequenting the sacraments of penance and Holy Communion. Youngsters who receive these sacraments frequently grow up to become models of Christian virtue. Before he came to the oratory, Dominic went to confession and communion once a month. But at the oratory, he was allowed to go more frequently. He would say,
When I am all worried, I go to my confessor because he shows me God's will. Jesus Christ himself assures us that the confessor is the voice of God.
His confessor, Don Bosco, noting his extraordinary progress in sanctity, advised him to receive Holy Communion 3 times a week, and at the end of a year, he allowed him daily communion. Dominic's soul had a great love and devotion to the Blessed Mother of God. Desiring to be a saint, He refused to play any games with his companions. He became very serious and even sad. For 2 days, Dominic went about with this somber look. His teacher, Don Bosco, called him and asked if he was sick. Dominic explained that he had a great and urgent desire to become a saint. Don Bosco praised his decision but told him, "Here we make holiness consist in being cheerful. We must always strive to be as happy in the Lord. Sin only kills joy. One needs to be good with one's books and kind to one's companions." True Christian charity always urged Dominic to seek out and assist invalids who were abandoned and desperate cases who were deprived of both spiritual and medical assistance. Dominic was never robust. On March 1857, he fell seriously ill. The doctors diagnosed it as an inflammation of the lungs. As he grew weaker, Don Bosco advised him to return home to his native air, hoping that he would recover. That was not to be. Dominic would never return to the oratory. His sickness took a turn for the worse. Consoled by the reception of the sacraments, he died quietly at his home on March 9th, 1857. His last words were, "What a beautiful sight I see." After his death, Dominic appeared in a vision to his father saying that he was in heaven enjoying the beatific vision of God. In his apparition to Don Bosco, Dominic Savio assured his spiritual father that what consoled him most at the hour of his death was the tender devotion he had to Mary, Mother of God. Towards the end of February in the year 1950, young people had come to Rome from all over for the Holy Year celebrations. But there was excitement because of another great joyful event, the beatification of the young teenager Domnic Savio. The solemn ceremony took place on March 5th in the presence of Pope Pius XII, who addressed the vast crowd of young people that filled St. Peter's Square. Dominic Savio was canonized 4 years later in 1954. Many witnesses testified at the process of the beatification and canonization, and they acknowledged Dominic's virtues and holiness. However, it was Don Bosco's biography that seemed the most moving testimony of them all. Doing ordinary things in an extraordinary manner was Dominic Savio's way. It was his secret to sainthood, a simple but yet an effective way of making a difference. Trapped within every boy is a saint waiting to happen. We all have the potential to be saints if we truly live and respond to the tremendous love of God that flows in and around us. Each one of us has the right material to be a saint, the cloth that the experienced tailor, God, can change into a beautiful garment for himself.
As I put the scapular on me of Dominic Savio as an expected mother, I pray specially to relieve from every labor pain, especially for all the mothers, and to bless the child in the womb. The faith still continues to grow, and it will grow on and on without any endless thought for the expected mothers, to bless the child in the womb in a special way and to have a normal and safe delivery. There may be much of pain, but with the scapula around, everything will be taken care by Saint Dominic Savio and his grace.
Getting pregnant and giving birth and becoming a mother is nothing short of a miracle today. Today I'm past 30 years and married for around 5.5 years, and we never thought that anything could happen actually in these 5 years, and almost given up hope. But yes, a miracle has happened and it's still continuing. When I got pregnant, there were a number of difficulties that I had to face in terms of problems. I had an asthma attack for which I had to be hospitalized, and it was scary. Okay, while I was in the hospital, my husband was also detected of herpes, which is a highly contagious disease, especially dangerous for pregnant women. And I still remember that night when it was late in the night, around 12, and he was searching for a vaccination which could actually help in me not being getting that disease. Things thankfully went off very safely, and in spite of the stress of going to work and coming back, things were very good. And I still believe that the miracle of the prayers that we are almost continuing every day to Mother Mary and to Don Bosco and to Dominic Savio will continue. Most importantly is at a time of labor when we really require help. I'm sure that time I'll forget everything and I'll behave like a mad person, but I know that that time is a time when I'll require the help and the calmness. And I pray for it now, and I hope that all women all over the world also have this faith and trust. That's all that I ask, is this safe delivery for which I am placing my trust in Dominic Savio, and also post-delivery to bring up this child as an example of a good human being.
Don Bosco proposed a very simple way to the adolescents of his oratory. First of all, to be always happy. At the same time, to fulfill their duties. Their duties in the family, their duties in the school, because it's a way in which we satisfy the will of God. And finally, to be very open to the others in order to be helpers of them. So for Don Bosco, holiness was not a vocation for an elite, but it was the vocation for all of us. The most interesting thing is that Dominic Savio is the youngest saint of the whole history, and it was an adolescent of the Oratory of Don Bosco. There is no younger saint than Dominic Savio in the whole 2,000 years history of the Catholic Church. That means that through Salesian education, we can help you really to become holy according to the gospel.